guys, this week our 1957 GMC Stepside's back on the channel. And it is all blurred out because it looks completely different than it's gonna look like in this episode as we fabricate our 3-inch custom exhaust for this thing. We're gonna give you guys a sneak peek at what this truck looks like with a fresh coat of paint at the end of this episode. But first, we gotta get you guys caught up on a whole bunch of work. Starting with our fuel system and that intake that you guys have all been asking for.
Today, I'm gonna be installing our fuel system. Got a bunch of fittings here, line clamps, stainless line, and even some nylon hose to complete our fuel system. In the back of our Roadstershop spec chassis, we have a beautiful handmade stainless steel tank. And in that tank, we have a returnless style fuel pump module. The fuel pump along with the regulating device is mounted inside the tank. So we're only gonna be running a single line from here all the way up to the engine. Up front, we don't have our fuel rails yet, but we really don't need to get that section because it's going to be a nylon braided hose section going from a hard line somewhere right around the bell housing of the transmission. So not worried about that. We'll make those lines once we have our fuel rails in place. Exhaust is coming up next. But for now, I'm gonna get started on getting our fuel system mounted. All right, so we'll start here. We're gonna make a soft line that goes from directly out of the tank over to the frame rail. So it'll just be a single soft line here and then go on to our 3/8 stainless. So attaching our hard line to our soft line, we'll be using a hard line adapter, and they're very simple. There's no flaring, which is good. It saves time, and also sometimes flaring stainless line can be difficult. So using these guys should work out pretty good here. We'll go ahead and get this thing installed on there, and then we'll start worrying about getting the bends in it. All right, we finally got our intake solution. We're gonna be running these awesome Redux Racing LS3 drive-by-wire individual throttle bodies. But before we get it final installed, there's some small stuff that I have to do to get it prepared for final installation. So I'm gonna get that going right now. Got all the injectors installed and the plugs in the unused injector holes for the stock rails. So this would be like the stock layout, but the middle two are spaced out slightly on these rails, so they only fit in this upper plenum or the upper throttle body area. So I had to switch out the plugs and also switch out the O-rings to fit the proper sizing for the holes for the stock injector. Got all that figured out now. The next thing is going to be to mounting the fuel rails onto the throttle assemblies. You can see here these are a bit long. These are really nice laser machined, and I'm assuming they're left long so you can add whatever injector that you would like in here. Depending on your application, your power level might require something different than the stock injector, so they, I'm assuming, just give you a bracket that would kind of cover everything. So the bracket is shaped properly, but I do have to trim it a little bit right here down to this flat face, and this is the mounting area for the rail. So I'm going to cut this down and then also drill out a new hole, and we'll be able to use these brackets that are supplied with our throttle bodies. All right, rails are fitted. Wasn't too difficult. Cut some holes on these brackets. Mounted up no problem. Nice and sturdy. All right, got these hoses measured and cut while the auto body system was inside the engine bay and installed on the engine. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put these hose ends together. These are actually a direct fit hose end. So the threaded ORB goes into the fuel rail, and then the connection for the hose is built into the fitting. Kind of shortens up the fitting a little bit, gives me a little bit more clearance. Like you saw, it's pretty tight back here to the firewall. So every little bit of length or lack of length is beneficial for us. So I'm gonna install these on there, and then at the bottom of this I'll have my Y fitting, and this Y fitting will then go directly into our feed line that's up next to the transmission. Got the final connection made in the back over there. You can see it's real tight down here against the firewall. The last thing I am gonna do, which I'm gonna wait until we get the cab off the chassis here, is make a small bracket that goes off the highest most mounting bolt for the bell housing right here, and make a small bracket that can hold a hose clamp, and I will hose clamp these lines right here to keep it nice and secure. Overall, I think it's a pretty clean look. We're running, like I said, no crossover hose in the front, and that cleans up all the front and gives you a nice view of all the linkage instead of having another crossover here for our fuel line. One last part of the fuel system. Now that the tank's back in, I can just run this last line. I have my fitting already here on the hard line, and we just have to take this up to right up in here to complete the fuel system.
All right, we got our Stainless Brothers exhaust materials in. Here's our muffler, which we are going to be mounting right next to our link bar here. Something along, hold on. Something along this area. Obviously a little bit lower. The top of our muffler kind of shoots right in between the top of our frame rail and the top of our rear axle housing. Then we'll be able to figure out where we're gonna exit out the truck. And then as you see, it's an offset muffler, so the outlet or the inlet is down below, which should be a nice straight shot into our X-pipe. I'm gonna go ahead and make up a little wood jig. That way we can get these things held up in here straight. It's in between our two link bars. That's where they're gonna sit, with plenty of clearance in between for our drive shaft. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut up some miscellaneous wood we got laying around the shop and get these things to sit up in here. Then we can figure out how we're gonna hang them and all that good stuff. All right, there we have our little muffler jig slash stand. Get these things to sit nice and straight and flat. Give us some kind of point to sit these where we want them and figure out how we're gonna hang them. We can leave them like this, start connecting some dots. So I'm gonna go ahead and tape up our mufflers so we don't get them all scratched up. And then we can get this thing over to the truck and see how it looks. All right, we got our two mufflers in place. I'm really liking the way they're sitting. It should be a real nice straight shot right through here over our axle, rear axle, and underneath our cross member here. Also down here on the other side, our inlet. We're probably gonna have to jog down a little bit and kind of get to the right height from where our horizontal pieces are gonna be coming through this way. But as you see over there, that green tape, that is the bottom or the top of our framing. So the framing will be coming across this way, and we could probably utilize that to hang our mufflers. So that's good. The mufflers are set in place. And I'm liking this jig, man. I might keep this. We are doing a 3-inch stainless steel exhaust. All parts are from Stainless Bros.
I'm telling you, man, these guys put out some nice product. Once I started using Stainless Bros, I don't think I'm gonna go back. So we got everything we're gonna need here between on our table and this box. We got a slew of pie cuts, of course. We got 4 V-band kits. We got our 45s, which we're gonna be turning into our X-pipe. We got a couple 45s here, a bunch of little miscellaneous 45s and stuff in this box. We got our stainless steel 3/8 rod for hangers, our isolators, and this is something new I just saw on their website. These are little brackets that we'll weld onto the pipe, and your rod would go through that. So now you're welding this bracket onto the pipe as opposed to just welding a rod onto it. So of course we got our purge setup, again from Tycon, same company, Tycon Stainless Brothers. Look at this, they even threw in some markers, man. I like that. Thanks, guys. So we're ready to go. We got our truck up on the lift. I got my level here clamped onto the bottom of our cross member. This is probably a little bit lower than that, but we'll keep it up a little bit higher than our oil pan, our transmission pan. So this is probably gonna be about the bottom of our 3-inch exhaust. We're gonna just be trying to keep it pretty simple. We're gonna be doing a nice little turn down, coming through. Right after our transmission cross member, we'll X-pipe it, which will be underneath our drive shaft, coming through here, coming up, and hitting into our mufflers. Then we're gonna go up and over our rear differential, our axle housing, and swooping through on the sides and out the back of the roll pan. Yep, we are doing a roll pan. Never in my life would I ever admit to liking a roll pan on a truck, but for some reason it kind of works on this one. So it should look pretty nice with our exhaust coming out the back here. We still have some work to do to get this roll pan to look nice. It's crazy, these roll pans are fit between I think a 1953 to a 1989 Chevy pickup truck, so I'm surprised it fit. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the driver's side. I'm gonna go ahead and cut a piece of pipe and start playing with that. I got a little 5-inch piece of straight cut. We got our 45 and we got 2 pie cuts to make it flat to the frame. Looks good. We got plenty of clearance in between our transmission linkage and our brake pedal, which is on the right side. So we'll be shooting right down in between everything right here. So I can go ahead and get these components tacked together. All right, we got our piece mounted on our flange, coming off our headers. 45 with a couple pie cuts, nice straight piece. We got our 45 here, right past our transmission mount. This is where our X-pipe is gonna sit, right up in here. So I got my 2 45s over here with our long legs on them. So we're gonna get these over to the bandsaw and make a nice cut in here, join these two together. And we'll go ahead and get it back up under the truck and see what we got to do to make our connection. All right, we got our 2 45s prepped, cut, ready to go to make our X-pipe. Everything fit up pretty well. All right, before we go putting our X-pipe up, we're gonna go ahead and add a support here for our runner. I already got my isolator mounted to the Roadstershop chassis. They provide you this mounting point here. So I got my rod and I got my little sleeve here that's gonna get welded onto the side of the pipe. I think that's gonna look nice. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut my rod a couple miters. We'll get this thing bent up and welded and we'll get this thing in. So it's gonna slide in, it's gonna 90 down, 90 back over with this tab sitting like that. All right, we got our passenger side pipe ready to go. We got our nice bracket on there. Man, I gotta tell you, I really like these brackets. It's awesome because it gives you another means of this thing slides right in. So, you know, it's easy to install and it looks cool. So I'm pretty happy with these. I think we'll be using these here on out. So let's get this up there. All right, we got all our piping tacked together all the way up to our X pipe. That's gonna be my stopping point. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this all out, bring it over to the welding table and get it all welded up. And then we're gonna be putting V-bands somewhere in this area, probably with double 45s. So before I get going on that, I need to get my mufflers set. So I think this is a good point to go ahead and pull this down, fully weld it all up and get it back in. And then we'll be able to get our mufflers mounted and move on. But she's looking real good so far. I'm pretty happy with the way it's coming out. Nice and flat, nice and level, nice and squared up. Everything's looking good. So let's keep it rolling. We got our first section of our exhaust all fully welded from our flange all the way through to our X pipe. We got our brackets on, our isolators, everything's ready to go. It's always the scariest part, man, when you get it all welded on your welding table and you go to put it back in, and hopefully you don't have too much movement. I did everything I needed to do, so let's keep our fingers crossed and see what we got. All right, that's excellent news. She went in perfectly. There was no movement. I'm excited. I lost some sleep last night over that, but we're ready to keep moving. So now that we're here with our X pipe, next step is gonna go ahead and get our mufflers set in place, and then we'll have somewhere to connect our A to B. So we'll go ahead and get this truck lowered, get them in place, and see what we got. All right, we got our mufflers sort of sitting where we want them. We can still move them front and back a little bit. As far as height goes, we're good. We're just underneath our little cross member there on our C-notch. So I got a 45 taped onto a 90. So we'll be shooting out of our X pipe with a 45, 90ing up, and then obviously 90ing back over. It looks like right now I'm a little long past where I need to be. So I'm gonna take a little meat out of our 90 here, out of the leg, and shorten it up a little bit, and then we'll kind of bring it back over and see where we're at. Looks like I'm probably shooting past it about ½ inch or so, so I'm gonna just bring it over to the bandsaw and take a little length off of our leg on this 90. All right, now that we got all of our fittings, 90s, 45s, everything's connected with our V-bands right to our mufflers. It's time to get a little hanger situation here in this back area. We're gonna use the provided Roadstershop mounting points right here. We got 2 3/8 bolts. So we're gonna make a little bracket to come off of here, and we're gonna use our GSI hanger, which we're gonna mount off the side of our exhaust pipe like this, and then we'll pick up that tab, the mounting tab that we're gonna bolt onto the chassis, and that should hold up this whole back section right here. And then as we go underneath our cross member, we may do another hanger here, because this is a lot of weight in this section right here. And then we'll be able to just start turning our 45 down and start to go out the back. So I think this is this was the hardest part right here, this section. Nothing is welded yet, but once I get my hanger sorted out, we'll bring the welder over here and start doing some tacking.
You know I said yes.
All right, we got all of our exhaust piping all the way through to the muffler. Everything is tacked together pretty well. We got our V-bands welded on. We got our GSI hangers. Everything's kind of situated where we want it. All that stuff's tacked together pretty good. I'm gonna have to pull it all out and final weld everything, but I'm at a good spot right now that I could go ahead and continue my run. I ended up changing the orientation of our mufflers. I decided to go underneath our rear end as opposed to above it, because we're gonna be exiting down there inside that roll pan. So I'm probably gonna 45 down a little bit slightly and angle it straight out through here, and then another 45 back this way. Everything's nice and even, side to side. It's pretty level up and down. Rock and roll, man. This thing's gonna sound killer. All right, there we go. We got a nice little swoop going right underneath the rear axle. Plenty of clearance. Right now we're at full droop, so this will probably never ever be like this anyways, but we have plenty of clearance in between the top of our exhaust pipe and the bottom of our axle housing. Now we'll just have a nice straight piece, bringing our 45, tugging the side of the frame rail right here. So we got to get that measurement in between that 45 and this one. And we're going to be just running it pretty much straight down this back frame rail, and we're going to be exiting out here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my exit point. We also have a nice point for a hanger here, already provided with a bolt welded inside of our frame rail. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my 3-inch pipe marked back here, and then we'll have a nice little point to head towards. We got our 3-inch exhaust pipe through our roll pan, cut on the same plane as our roll pan itself. Right now it's sticking out about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 or so. That still has a little play, so we'll find out where we're gonna be happy with that. This piece is gonna obviously be a lot longer, but at least now I have some kind of idea on where we're gonna be turning this 45, and adding probably a pie cut or two to get us in that same plane as this pipe. And then we'll just connect the dots, add our hanger here, and the side should be good to go.
All right, I'm gonna take over from Mikey on welding up the back of this exhaust. So this is one side, this is the tail end, this side goes in the muffler. I've already tacked it, put a bunch of welds while it was on the truck, and now we could do a bunch of final welding with our back purging all hooked up. Get some nice welds on there, bring the other one, and then we can put them back up and weld our hangers onto them. Alright, we've got a bunch of welds started here up to our V-band, and then from our V-band to our muffler all the way back here is completely tacked and some parts fully welded. So all I'm gonna do now is pull off this whole section. That way I could pull off this section, finish welding all these spots off of the X-pipe that still need to get finished up. Then we could put the front section back in, finish welding up this section, and then make sure our tips are perfect in our holes, and then we could get those set last. Got the roll plan clamped on, and it's kind of having some issues, and I noticed there's a slight dip right here that's kind of thrown me off. So I'm gonna have to see if I can't bend it back, hopefully make this thing line up better.
right, we got a roll panel mocked up again after I removed all the spot welds. So now it's nice and flush here, which before this was sticking out like a good half an inch. It just looked terrible. We're pretty even with our rear fenders. And I'm gonna go ahead and tack this guy in, add another piece to fill in here and just blend it all in so it'll look like nothing ever happened.
All right, guys, now that our custom exhaust is finally complete, we are one step closer to getting this truck fired up. Next week, we're gonna be finishing up all the fabrication, stripping the whole truck down, getting it ready for paint and body work. And when it comes out on the other side, it's gonna be looking just like this. So make sure you're subscribed because we got a ton of work for y'all to get caught up on. Bye.